Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Battle. I am Michael Adams, the creator of Legacy Battle. My co-host tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King. We have a career interview for you today. We are joined by a former San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl winner. He's a writer. His book, Facing Giants, will be coming out probably before this show is released, so you want to check that out anywhere you can get your books online. And he also has a biography available out there too, which I'm going to be asking about a little later. He also founded the Visger Group, which its goal is to help raise awareness of traumatic brain injuries. So we want to welcome George Visger. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, and bear with me with chickens crowing in the background. So,
Brian, start us out.
So, George, you were born and raised Stockton, California. Football was a big part of your life at a young age. You were part of 2 championship teams at the Pop Warner level, then went on to win 2 more championships at AA Stagg High School. You also were named to the 1975 High School All-American team. So what were those early years like for you in Stockton, and what stands out the most?
Well, so growing up in Stockton, I'm the 5th of 6 kids. Both my older brothers played college ball. My oldest brother Bob, played at Sacramento State University, and when they played in the '67 Junior Rose Bowl against Grambling, and he was 10 years older than me. So already I'm like, oh, I want to be better than these guys. And my other brother Mel was 4 years older than me, and he was a beast in high school. Great heavyweight wrestler. The day he was going to tie the national record for consecutive pins, his appendix broke, and ended up going into college, playing ball in college. Again, I wanted to be better than those guys, and I love my brothers. It was nothing. So, but I was a skinny, scrawny kid growing up. I played on the very first Pee Wee Pop Warner team Stockton ever had, the 1970 West Stockton Bear Cubs, and I was. It was the Pee Wee weight limit, I think, was 80 to 115 pounds, and I was like 80 something pounds, maybe 90. Skinny, scrawny, slow. The coaches, and a knock-kneed, the coaches nicknamed me Clang. When I ran, they said they could hear my knees clanging clear across the field. But I was a tough kid, and I ended up, I went both ways. On that little Pee Wee team, we had 29 kids, and 3 of us signed NFL contracts in 1980. And our safety was Vaughn Hayes, who went on to a Major League Baseball All-Star career. So we had some athletes, and first 5 games we played, I think we scored something like 245 points to our opponent's 0. And I'm like, oh, I love this game. This is it. I always knew I wanted to be an oceanographer. Those are my 2 big dreams, and I decided right then I wanted to be the greatest NFL player to ever live. So I started lifting weights religiously in my bedroom with some crummy little weights I found, and drinking raw eggs and milkshakes, and went on and played 2 more years of Pop Warner, won another championship. That was in 9th grade. And then I had my first of many, many concussions. Actually, I had my worst concussion. My 3rd year Pop Warner, I was knocked totally unconscious in a stupid bull in the ring drill in practice, and I was hospitalized. Only missed, I think, a game or 2, and then came back. And then my sophomore year, I went to Amos Alonzo Stagg High, and I don't know if you're familiar with who Stagg was. So Amos Alonzo Stagg was the winningest coach in the history of football till, I believe, Bear Bryant broke his record in the 90s or something. And so Stagg was on the very first All-American team in 1899 with the likes of Pop Warner himself. I mean, these guys developed the game. Mm-hmm. And Stagg coached into his 90s. And he ended up dying in Stockton at like 102 years old. And so Stagg was just, my high school was steeped in the history of football. Again, a lot of the guys I played Pop Warner with, we played together at Stagg, had an amazing team. We lost a bowl game my junior year, only game we lost the whole time we played on varsity. My senior year, we were undefeated, ranked 3rd in California behind the co-national champs. And then, and by then I was hammering the weights. You know, my sophomore year, after 3 years of lifting, I was all of 158 pounds, and I ran a 5.7 40. I was slow as molasses.
Wow.
Still knock-kneed, but between my sophomore and junior year, I put on 55 pounds, and I came back my junior year. I'm like 215, running a 4.9 40, and then just every year just kept hitting the weights. Middle town of Montana, going back home. So excuse the we got pickup trucks driving by and chickens crowing, and I'm sitting behind a hardware store, I think. And so anyway, by my senior year, I built myself into, you know, I was one of the top. I was picked top 100 high school All-American. I was about 230 then, you know, 4.9 40, decent speed, good grades. I knew I would need good grades to get into college. My dad never even finished high school. He raised 6 of us kids driving a beer truck. And so had a lot of scholarship offers out of high school. Went to University of Colorado. My freshman year, in fact, my freshman year, we won the Big Eight. They were in the Big Eight back then with Oklahoma and Nebraska and those guys. And we played the old Woody Hayes Ohio State Buckeyes in the '77 Orange Bowl. And then I won my starting position that's during spring ball my freshman year. I started 3 years at Colorado. Then in 1980, back then they had 12 rounds of draft, and my goal was I wanted to go on the first day. I knew I wasn't going to be a high round pick, but so I ended up getting drafted by the Jets in the 6th round in 1980. By then I was 275 and really hitting the weights, and get into New York, and I knew that they had Joe Klecko on the line, who's now in the Hall of Fame. Marty Lyons was their first round pick the year before, Abdul Salam. I'd never heard of Mark Gastineau. So this was his second year. I come into camp, and this backup defensive lineman comes in, and he's 6'5", 284. He runs a 4.4 40. We had three guys on the team that could beat him in the 40, and 2 were Olympic gold medal sprinters. So I'm like, wow, this is the NFL. Battled through preseason, got cut at the end of preseason, and then the Niners picked me up like about the 5th game of the season in '80. I come in on Tuesday. We're playing the Cowboys that weekend. So they just give me a
we're gonna get into that a little bit later.
Okay, got it.
I have a question for that one. Yeah.
Well, you guys, hey, if I start rambling, cut me off.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, no problem. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned making the Orange Bowl. I mean, that's just a prestigious bowl game, but under Coach Mallory. But then in 1979, Coach Mallory is gone, and in steps Chuck Fairbanks, who in 3 seasons as a coach at Colorado, he only wins 7 games after a very successful career at Oklahoma. So what was that transition like, and how did the defensive schemes change?
Well, here was the thing. Yeah, like you said, I love playing for Coach Mallory. He never even had a losing season, and they canned him. Yeah. So they spend a bunch of money. Fairbanks was actually coaching the Patriots at the time, and they were going to the playoffs, and they buy out his contract. It was months of trying to get him on campus. Big fiasco. He comes in, you know, benched a lot of the seniors, or that guys that would be seniors, because they wouldn't be helping him the next year. Just a lot of garbage went on. We had 7 guys drafted in the first 6 rounds. We had 2 first rounders. We win 3 freaking games that year. I mean, anyway, it wasn't good. Let's just put it that way. And so that left a bad taste in my mouth, the way we went out my senior. And on that speaking of Colorado, I am sad to say, just 2 days ago, we lost Donnie Hasselbeck, who played. He was an All-American for us at Colorado my freshman year. played quite a few years with the Patriots, and then won a Super Bowl with the Raiders. Had a heart attack just a few years ago mowing the lawn, and wasn't breathing for quite a few minutes, and they got him resuscitated and brain dead, and he died yesterday. And so a lot of chatter with my Colorado Buffs, and they're having a big, memorial for him coming up. He's in the Hall of Fame at Colorado. Great guy. And then both his sons went on and played in the NFL, Matt Hasselbeck and Tim Hasselbeck. But I want to give a little shout out to Donnie and Betsy, his wife, and his kids, and how much he was loved. He was really loved and respected by all the old Bucks. So Godspeed, Donnie. We'll miss you.
George, let's get back to that Dallas Niners game. So as I understand it, you suffered many concussions before you became a pro. And then the most severe one comes in that game against Dallas in 1980, while you remember the Niners. So what do you know about the hit now? Were you blindsided, or was it helmet to helmet? And, what was the game situation? Was it like a special teams play, or
no?
What do you know about that now?
Early in the first quarter, so we're playing the Cowboys, and early in the first quarter, they get down the goal line. I'm in on the goal line. I'm playing defensive tackle. I'm in like the one gap between center and guard, and they run the old Dallas tight end trap. And Doug Cosby, who went on an all-pro career, their tight end. And it's funny because Doug just wrote a very, very nice preface for my book coming out about how we met. He said, unfortunately, we met helmet to helmet. So my very first play I'm in, they run a trap where they don't block the defensive tackle. They want to let you get upfield. They've got the tight end in motion, and Cosby catches me in the temple. I don't remember. I stayed in the game. I guess the trainers and doctors told me every time I come off the field, sideways, they'd give me a couple smelling salts, clear my head. I'd go back in. Played that whole game. Don't remember it. Don't remember the next week of practice. Do not remember playing the Rams the following week. And then after that, when I'm shaking the cobwebs out, the trainers and doctors are laughingly telling me that I went through 10 or 15 smelling salts during the Cowboy game to keep me on the field. Never missed a play. So it was a joke back then. They called it getting your bell rung. And so finished the season with them. And following season, during mini camp, I blow my knee out. They tell me it's a sprain. They're draining 60, 70 cc's of blood out of it every couple weeks when it would blow out again. So I go into camp the following July, and I've been having pounding headaches. Knee keeps going out. So I blow my knee out again in preseason. I have knee surgery. Coming back off of that, and my headaches start getting horrific every night. They'd get so bad, I would have a ball of light in front of each eyeball. My hearing would come and go at the beat of my heart. I'd start projectile vomiting. And the term projectile is an understatement. I told the docs when I would go in, that I said I could hit the ball from 25 yards out and chip porcelain. I mean, it's projectile. So the team doc's the same one that misdiagnosed my knee. He tells me it's high blood pressure. They put me on high blood pressure pills for 2.5 weeks. And then that team, so I'm rooming with Terry Totolo and Scott Stouts, and there's a whole story with Terry. I found him living in an underpass in 2012 after a 9-year NFL career. No teeth. Anyway, so I'm living with those guys, and we had played Chicago that day, and I hadn't played because I was in injury reserve. And that night, we played at my home in San Francisco, and I grew up in Stockton, just a couple hours away. So I had some friends come up for the game. Afterwards, Terry and Scott and my friends, we all go out and have a couple beers. And my symptoms were such, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd go and work out, but as the day progressed, my headache would get worse and worse until I was in the evenings when I would lose my eyesight and hearing and puking. So I'm getting close to my puking time. It's about, I don't know, 11 o'clock. I told everyone, hey, I'm heading to the barn. So I head back to the apartment. Terry and Scott, they stay out until the bar's closed. It's 2:30 in the morning, they come home. And by then, when I got home, I mean, I could barely even drive back to our apartment in Foster City. I've got balls of light in my eyes. My head's pounding. I'm puking out the window of my truck. Get home to the apartment, stagger into there. I'm puking, eyesight's going, hearing's going. Terry and Scott come home. They go, man, let us take you to the hospital. And again, the old mentality of I'm good. And I believe the docs. I mean, I was a 22-year-old kid. And I said, hey, high blood pressure. So I'm popping high blood pressure pills. 5 minutes later, they're bouncing around the bottom of the toilet. And so finally, about, I don't even know what time it was. They checked on me 2 or 3 times. And 4:30, 5 in the morning, I don't know what it was. I'm laying, after puking, I go back to bed and I'm laying there, and all of a sudden my arm curls up just like this, my fist under my chest. And I grab it with my other hand thinking that's a weird cramp. But when I grabbed it, this hand here, I couldn't feel it. So I straightened it out. And when I let go, it just curls back up across my chest, just like this. And I'm laying there in bed now, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm no brain surgeon, but this isn't high blood pressure. And so I start praying. I'm thinking, okay, I'm dying. And I'm also thinking if Terry or Scott comes in to check on me, I'll let him take me to the hospital. But again, the old ball player's mentality, I wasn't going to be a pussy and go wake them up. I mean, they played a game that day. And, you got to understand that this is the mindset that we have. So I finally pass out at Lord knows when, 5:30 or 6 in the morning. Days after games are light days. So we get up, like 7:30, 7, whatever time. Now I could move my arm, but I could barely lift a cup of coffee. So we go in day after game. Injured players get treatment. The docs are in there. We have a couple of meetings, a light workout, break a little sweat, and you go home. So I wait till our team doctor sees all the guys that got dinged the day before. He's in his little office in the locker room. And our facilities were in Redwood City back then. And I walk in his office, and he looks at me and he says, "What now?" And I said, "Don't freaking tell me it's high blood pressure. My arm went paralyzed last night." He kind of rolls his eyes, tells me to sit down on the table. I sit down. He gets his little flashlight, little retinascope, looks in my eye, and this is how my book starts. "Oh my God, your brain's hemorrhaging." I jump off the table, ready to kill him, and I'm going off on him. He's going, no, wait. And he backs up, and I'm just, in his face. He reaches behind himself and he's fumbling around. He grabs a phone and he starts dialing a few numbers and dialing a couple more. And I'm pissed. Finally, he grabs a notepad. He scribbles some info on a piece of paper, hands it to me. Now, this is where my story turns into a comedy. Okay. He hands me this piece of paper. He says, "Here, go home, lie down, and drive yourself to Stanford Hospital this afternoon and see this neurologist." So in my book, I write, my first thought was, must be one of those mild brain hemorrhages, or he would have called an ambulance. So I go home, lay down, drive down to Stanford, which, if I remember correctly, was probably a half-hour drive in Bay Area traffic from where we're living. I go see this neurologist. He takes one look at me. They want to do a CT brain scan, but they couldn't get me in for an hour or two. And I said, "Hey, doc," I said, "I'll come back." I said, "My head, I'm almost close to my puking time." And he looks at me and he says, "You drove here?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You can't drive like this." And I said, "I've been driving like this for weeks." So anyway, long story short, they put me in a little room to hang out for a couple hours, take me in, do a CT brain scan, rush me in. I'm having emergency brain surgery. I had developed hydrocephalus, which is water on the brain. And so, anytime you have a concussion, you get scar tissue builds up in your brain. And on me, you have 4 ventricles in the middle of your brain. The back two produce a pint of spinal fluid every day, and it flows through a little tiny tube called the aqueduct sylvius to the front 2 ventricles, around your brain, down your spinal column, and it flushes toxins out of your brain. Well, on me, at that little aqueduct sylvius between the back 2 ventricles and the front 2, they're just guessing scar tissue built up and plugged it off. So when I produce that pint of spinal fluid, those back 2 ventricles in 24 hours, I mean, I've got a 16-ounce can of beer shoved in my brain. So they drill a hole in my skull, run a tube into one of those ventricles, run the tube back of my head. I've got a pump under my skin with a little, when I get a real bad headache, I'll pump more fluid out. I'm not supposed to do it. There's a tube goes down my neck, through my pec, into my abdomen, drains spinal fluid, 24 hours a day. While I'm in intensive care at Stanford for 14 days, 0 people from the facilities come to see me other than my 2 roommates, who they get rid of before I get out of the hospital. They cut Terry, 6-year vet, and the day I get out, Scott Stouch, my other roommate, they're shipping him to New Orleans. They were the only people that knew what was going on. They would come in and visit me and say, Coach Walsh told the team you had a spinal test done and you're back at Stockton recuperating. I'm laying there getting phone calls from the trainers and team doctor. Hey, Visc, we're going to have a special made helmet. You can keep playing. And again, the ball player mentality, I was all in. If these professionals tell me I can play, I'm playing. So Terry and Scott are gone. I come back. I'm back at the facilities working out all year, thinking I'm going to play. Now I'm working out, lifting on my knee, getting back in shape. Well, we're winning and winning. You know, so this was Walsh's 3rd year. His first year, he was like 2-14. And then it was 2nd or 3rd year. And then my previous year, my rookie year, I think we were like 6-10, you know, maybe mediocre. And all of a sudden, so the 81 season was the year we drafted Ronnie Lott, Hall of Fame, Eric Wright, another rookie DB was starting, Carlton Williamson. So we had 3 rookie DBs starting, which was unheard of. Mm-hmm. And we are rolling, right? So we're winning, and they don't want anything rocking the boat. But as the season's progressing, man, I'm like, what the hell's going on? There's nothing said about this. I was a nobody in the NFL. I was, you know, just a blue-collar kid playing. But when I had knee surgery, that's in the paper. All of a sudden, brain surgery, there's nothing being said. Terry and Scott are gone. No one comes to see me. I'm going, what the hell is happening here? So we are literally, so toward the end of the season, we're in the weight room working out one day. John McVay, our general manager, and this is all in the book. We're in there working out, and McVay brings, like, I think there were 3 local business couples touring the facilities. He's introducing people, you know, this is Ronnie Lott. And he said, this is George Visger. He's one of our veteran defensive linemen. He's on injury reserve. He had 2 knee operations. And this woman asked me, 2? How'd you have 2? And I said, no, ma'am, I had knee surgery and brain surgery. And McVay looks me right in the eye with a look like, keep your mouth shut or you're out of here. He says, no brain surgery, I had 2 knee operations. Now, keep in mind, NFL contracts aren't even real contracts. You sign a 10-year, bazillion-dollar contract, play 1 game, they can cut you, and they owe you, now it's what, 18-game season? They owe you 1/18 of that first year's salary. It's all on paper. Very few guys have guaranteed contracts. Baseball contracts, they owe you. Basketball contracts, they owe you. NFL, no. So he's looking at me like, shut your mouth or you're gone. And so, and up to then I was, you know, feeling like, okay, maybe it's just in my recently shunted hydrocephalic brain, then I'm thinking that they're covering something up. Now I know. I said, yeah. I said, he's right. I had 2 brain surgeries, and I said effing right. I normally don't talk like that in front of women. I walk out of the weight room. I walk up to Keith Fonhorst, who was our player rep, and having been brought in like I wasn't real tight with a lot of the older guys, especially the offensive linemen. I was defensive lineman, so we're banging heads. So I said, hey, Keith, I don't know what to do. I said, I feel like I need to talk to somebody legally, and I don't even know for what. But so he sets me up with the NFL Players Association, who are about as worthless as tits on a bull. And they hooked me up with this attorney, and he's looking into potential malpractice on the knee, malpractice on the brain, blah, 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 blah. So, and again, I'm 22 years old. I just want to play. I just want to get back playing ball. And so they're telling me I can keep playing. We go to the Super Bowl. We're getting ready to go to the Super Bowl. And now I know I'm headed for a fall. So we got to take 2 guests with us. So I'm taking my dad and my oldest brother. The day we're leaving, I called my other brother, Mel. I said, man, I would feel better if this was out in the paper. I have no idea what I'm headed for. And keep in mind, it was 38 years later before I finally settled my suit. So he calls all the local papers. Actually, my oldest brother stayed home with my brother. Mel came with us. So Bob called the San Francisco Chronicle, the Oakland Tribune, like 5 local papers, and tells them, hey, I'm a 49er fan. I was in Stanford Hospital this year. I met a 49er, had brain surgery. And of course, that's a Super Bowl. They do articles on what color socks guys wear. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're looking for that. So anyway, he tells me when you get to Detroit, you're going to be inundated with people interviewing you. So when I get there, and I'm going to be there for 6 days. The team went out for 2 weeks, but injured guys were only there for 6 days. So I fly out with my brother and my dad, and we're there 6 days. No one talks to me. For any news to find me, they had to go through the front office and figure out what hotel I'm in. So I come back. Now, all of a sudden, things are happening to me. We go out, have a couple drinks, and the next thing I know, it's 6, 8, 9 hours later. I'm standing in jail, and I'd have no memory what went on. 1 minute I'm having a cold one, next minute behind bars. So this happens like 3 times in the first just few months after my brain surgery. May, so we go to the Super Bowl end of January. May, I go back to my neurosurgeon at Stanford, and I said, hey, something has happened since your surgery. And he says, not my surgery. I said, I'm turning into the kind of person I hate. I mean, I'm hearing stories. I don't even remember this. I would go into bars and punch people out, throwing chairs through windows. I'd get really violent. And so he says, it's not from my surgery. I said, well, I've never done this before. So he does a brain scan on me, a CT brain scan. He says, you look fine. I told him I'm leaving for Mexico tomorrow with my brother Mel and his wife, and we're going to go down and do some fishing for a few days. We have a little cabin on the beach. He says, no problem, leave the country. I said, what about drinking? No problem. We fly down there the very next day. I have 1 margarita at dinner. Now, the drinking is totally separate from the headache. So it just so happened, then I start getting my killer headaches again. I tell my brother and his wife, I said, I'm going to go back to the cabin. I said, I feel like hell. So I stayed out a couple hours. I go back. I'm back into this puking, eyesight going. Well, they come in. I'm going into a coma. He's calling my brother Bob in Sacramento. Bob's calling an orthopedic surgeon friend of his. The orthopedic's calling a neurosurgeon. He's saying, you got to get him home. He's dying. His shunt's out. Takes my brother. We miss flight after flight. And again, I don't remember anything from leaving dinner that night. I remember nothing for the next 16 to 18 months of my life, even to this day. All this is hearsay that I heard from my family. Anyway, they finally, we're stuck at the airport for hours, missing flights. He gets me to Long Beach. They get me stabilized. They fly me to Sacramento, a new brain surgeon, Dr. Cobb. He reoperates, puts a new shunt in. 10 hours later, they're calling my family. Someone should get down here. Your brother's back in a coma, and it doesn't look good. They rushed me in for third brain surgery, give me last rites. Again, I have no memory of the next 16, 18 months. My first recollection, hospital bills. I'd write on them, please bill San Francisco 49ers. You hear my old rooster over there? And I wrote it so many times, even with my hydrocephalic 9 brain surgery brain, I still remember their address, 711 Nevada Street, Redwood City.
Wow.
Now, I've never been cut. I was never released. I was so out of it, I just didn't even go back that 16, 18 months where I don't remember anything.
Well, let me jump in here because I want to make sure we get to ask about your book. So your second book that's coming out here very soon. Tell us about Facing Giants.
It's the only book I've written.
Well, you did the autobiography. I know Irv had written that one for you. So yeah, but so your current book coming out, Facing Giants. Just tell us how it came about, and I know that you wrote it to help TBI patients.
So anyway, I fought creditors for years to settle my work comp case. Finally won it in '85. I was the only NFL player to ever won a case. I used voc rehab, went back to school, had 5 more brain surgeries in 10 months, finishing my biology degree. 9th brain surgery in '93. Was working as a biologist, taught high school for a few years. Anyway, I've been very vocal over the years on what the NFL gets away with. I was the one guy that was jumping up and down. First of all, nobody wants to talk about their injuries. And then especially no one wants to talk about their brain injuries. And my ex-wife used to say, you keep doing articles and no one's ever going to hire you. I said, I have brain damage. I said, I'm not embarrassed, but I've learned ways to deal with it. I write down everything. And so anyway, I was very vocal in about 2010, that GQ, this is where my life changed. That GQ article came out on Dr. Bernard Omalo's study on the first 24 brains he studied. And 23 had this disease he discovered, CTE. Mike Webster died of it. Justin Strelzik killed himself. Dave Duerson killed himself. So I really started getting vocal. And then Jason Lukasevich, an attorney, came to me in 11 and filed the very first NFL brain injury lawsuit. Now I'm still in a legal battle on my work comp. So I get involved in that. I'm the 22nd named player on the original filing with 55 of us, and I was one of 7 players. They flew back to Washington, D.C. to speak at the press club when they unveiled the suit. And so now I'm engaged in a double-pronged battle with the NFL and the $19 billion NFL and the $27 billion Travelers. So from 2014 till I settled my case in 19, I had to win 4 work comp hearings, 8 appeals, and 3 times they took me clear to the California Court of Appeals to keep me from getting into doctor-prescribed treatments. So we finally settled my case, my work comp case. Oh, the NFL suit was won, I think, in 2017, and I had a small piece coming. Now, I had an environmental consulting business for years as a biologist. I had to let everybody go. I was diagnosed with frontal lobe dementia. I was hanging on by my fingernails. We lost my kid's home in 2010 or 11. I don't remember. I moved into the hyperbaric oxygen clinic. I slept on a floor for 2.5 years there. Thank God for Mike Greenhall, the guy that's running the clinic. I call him Brother Mike. My kids and wife at the time had to move an hour away to her mom's house, sleeping on air beds. It was a nightmare. And at the same time, so then in 17, the NFL brain injury lawsuit was settled. I have a little chunk coming. I'm thinking, okay, I get my family back in a house. Within a week, the $27 billion Travelers file a $615,000 lien on my NFL settlement, which was even more than I was going to get. So now we're back into another major battle. So again, I'm probably babbling. I apologize. But 2019, we go in to try to remove the lien and settle my NFL brain injury and NFL knee injury work comp case once and for all. And 9.5 hour freaking 8.5 hours into the mediation hearing, and the Travelers send their top 7 corporate attorneys to fight me. Little old freaking nobody, blue collar me. I've got Jason Lukasevich on my NFL brain injury side. He brought out an associate of his, Mad Max Petronia, who actually is a professional wrestler on the side. And then I have Chris Asvar, my work comp attorney. And 8.5 hours into this mediation hearing, we were making headway. They were lowering the lien. I guess the Travelers wanted to go to dinner, and they come back. The judge comes back into my room. He says, here's their latest offer. Now they want me to pay them like $700,000. I lost my mind. I'd already lost my home, my business. I was estranged from my kids with the anger issues. My kids didn't want anything to do with me. I lost my kids, my marriage. I had nothing. And I exploded. I told the judge, I said, I just as soon kick your tail, and I didn't say tail, and kick their tails. I said, let them sue me. I said, if they have the balls to fight me another 38, let's go. 38 years, let's go. An hour later, they folded their tent, and we finally settled. They pushed me to the freaking brink for 38 years. And all I ever wanted was my medical bill paid.
Well, that'd be a good place to pick up this next question, this final question here. So, George, it's achieving the status of being an NFL player, the disappointment of the career-ending injury and the near-death experiences, everything you went through, all the pain, physical limitations. Is there something that helped you get through it all? And what have you learned about yourself over these past 40-plus years, dealing with this hand that life has dealt you?
Yes, that's a great point. I tell you what, I had great parents. Big Rita, who died at 94, holding my hand, was my hero. Both my parents were my heroes. My dad, Big Jack, 6'6", 260, never finished high school, 17 years old, bypassed a $1,200 contract they were the Boston Knicks before they became New York Knicks. Lied about his age, enlisted in the Navy, fought in World War II like the greatest generation of all did. And then, so they raised us with character and morals and integrity, and you do what's right. And so, and my mom's mantra, Big Rita, was always put it in God. Her 2 things she would tell us: put it in God's hands. And second, something good comes out of everything. And I do motivational talks around the country, and I tell people, if you stay on the path and God's in control, at some point on that path, you'll look back and you will thank God for the deepest, darkest, worst point of your life, because now where you're standing, now it's worthwhile. So for me, it took 38 years, and now I'm actually working with people. I have a brain injury consulting business. I help folks struggling with the same garbage I did, either legalese, cognitively, you name it. I've become an expert in all this stuff. Unfortunately, I'm back with my kids and my family. I was able to put my kids through college. My daughter, Amanda, gave the commencement speech at Sacramento State University last year. My son, Jack, is in his last semester getting a degree in some kind of, environmental technological stuff. He's on the honor, he's on the honor list. My daughter, Stephanie, my oldest daughter, Stephanie, she had gone on, opened her own business. But best of all, they're just great people. And we went through some really tough. My wife now, Jennifer, I met her while I was living at Center for Neuroskills for 19 months after my legal battles to finally get in for treatment. Another blessing, because of my injury, I meet the love of my life, Jennifer. Jennifer and my ex, Christy, are great friends. They FaceTime. They tell each other how much they love each other. They're so Jennifer's so thankful for the kids Christy brought in. Christy tells Jennifer, thank you. I'm so thankful they have a second mom. I mean, things have worked out beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, truly. And I'm healthy. I mean, you wouldn't know I have any issues other than the fact that I don't know what I had for breakfast this morning or what I did yesterday. You know, here I'm sitting on a piece of concrete behind a hardware store, and I don't even know what town in Montana I'm in. But you know what? I've been blessed. I have truly been blessed. And what got me through was my belief that God's in control, but he's not going to do it for you. You got to do your part. And, there were times when I was really down. I mean, I've lost several friends June 2nd of this year. I lost a buddy of mine who only played Pop Warner with me in high school. In the last 4 years, he'd been calling me up, telling me his brain was all effed up. And I've been working with him, and he killed himself June 2nd. Jason Harrison, who founded Kuyu, $50 million business. He came and he played on the Niners 15 years after me. 1 year practice squad, 1 year with the Broncos practice squad. Came to me, George, I took a shotgun to bed with me last night. I worked with him for a few years. 2017, 19, I can't remember. While I'm living at Center for Neuro Skills, he takes a shotgun to bed with him, blows his brains out. It just grossed $50 million that year for Kuyu. I mean, this disease is horrific. It eats away different parts of the brain on different people. He could still function enough to run this massive business, but things short circuit. I mean, and we have a saying in the brain injury world: if you've seen one brain injury, you've seen one brain injury. They're all different. So my mission in life, and when I say fourth quarter, my wife, Jennifer, God bless her, says it's not fourth quarter. It's just the second half. So she's planning on me living to be 132 years old. But I'm pumped up to get the book out, to get back. I used to speak all over the country on brain injury recovery, and then COVID shut a lot of that stuff down. We're going to hit the ground running when this thing comes out. I'm setting it up where a lot of people that have websites that work with various groups, donating half the profits. If they put my link on their website, we'll donate half the profits to either a nonprofit brain injury group of their choice, or if they're working along the lines on that, we'll donate to theirs. So awesome. This work isn't about making money. It's about helping people, because I have become an expert in this stuff, and I know things that have worked for me. And it's not all the pharmaceuticals they had me on in 2010. I was on 4 different dementia medicines, anti-seizure pills, sleeping pills all at once. Couldn't find my way home from work. I was a mess. I got into hyperbaric oxygen treatments, high-dose omega-3 fish oils, natural antioxidants. I got back into shape physically. I do computer games to work my brain like a muscle. I meditate and I pray, and I quit all the freaking drugs they had me on after my 160th hyperbaric treatment, and my neurocog memory scores improved 14.3% from before when I started. I'm 66 years old now, and I'm feeling better now than I did 25 years ago. So
yeah, that's really something there. That's great, George.
Thank you for joining us and sharing your story, George. We appreciate you coming on.
And I hope I didn't run over time, because I'll ramble, and time frame.
No problem.
It's all right.
I appreciate you guys having me on and giving me a chance to talk. And God bless you both, and I wish you luck.
We'll see everybody next time. Have a great night.